into some stuff as well. We're going to have Kevin Allen joining us shortly.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be fun. I'm going to give you my predictions for the Central Division, which will and the Pacific Division too, real quickly. So that would be fun. And but first, we got a couple little things that we're going to talk about. Mike, you want to take it away?
Big truck.
Oh, okay, big truck. Okay, yeah, just a couple things. I understand parochialism when it comes to sports. I do. There's a certain amount of homerism, and that's acceptable because, announcers in Buffalo might be fans of the Bills or the Sabres, or in Toronto of the Leafs, but to keep it a little, media should keep it in control of it. But we had a couple examples yesterday or the last couple days of how they haven't kept it in control. Now, the New York Post, if we can see here, posted, and if not, I'll just tweet it out later.
It was like really bright. I couldn't.
Yeah, that's fine. They posted a headline when the announcement came of John Tavares being announced team captain of the Maple Leafs. Islanders turncoat John Tavares named captain of the Maple Leafs. I mean, okay, can you get over it? And it's not up to if that's the reaction of an Islanders fan, that's fine because they're the ones who have been jilted. But for the New York Post to write that, and they controlled.
I knew it was going to happen though.
Right, and the funny thing was, it was an Associated Press report, so they control the headline, so they have to be snarky.
Right,
it's stupid. That one is expected. Last night, I'm sorry, and I like the guy, and I've met him a couple times, and he's a nice guy, but Roman Polak gets slammed into the boards, or it was an awkward fall into the boards, gets taken off the ice in a stretcher. He's okay, but at that point, nobody knew what was going on. He was immobilized, and they took him off the ice, and Jack Edwards, the Bruins announcer, said something regarding that's hockey karma about Roman Polak. Now, this is the thing, and I know the record well. Roman Polak was one of the few players on the Leafs who would actually hit back against the more aggressive Bruins when Boston played Toronto. If an announcer for a team can't take that as that's the game of hockey and was his role, he's never been a dirty player. He's a tough player. Mm-hmm. If he can't accept that, I found, especially the
Bruins. I mean, they're maybe the most homeristic, if not one of the top three homer broadcasts in the league.
At the point that this happened, and the point that he said it, and it was right after the incident, when you don't know whether Roman Polak is seriously injured, to say that's hockey karma is such Bush League crap. I really don't believe Jack Edwards is a nice guy. He's a smart guy. That comment is so beneath him. And really,
it's not beneath him, though. He is a nice guy, but that's their broadcast.
Remember, this is the thing. It's not just that these guys are, homers. They work for these things.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? There is a fine line, and every year now we creep closer to. Now you're saying that they're being controlled for the broadcast, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be more organic, and it should be more down the middle. If you want to give it a slant on the in-game interviews, or if you want to give it a slant on the vignette before the game, I'm fine with that. But not every minute of the game has to be blowing smoke where, because you know what? Some fans get tired of it. I don't know if they get tired of it in the Boston area. I don't know it well enough, but I'm just saying some fans tire of that, even in their own market.
And I can understand the hyperbole if it's somebody like, who was it, Matt Cook that caused all of Mark Savard's problems? I think.
I mean, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I think it was. But if it was somebody like that who was a recidivist pain in the ass, like Rafi Torres or Mark Savard, I can understand an off-color comment about that player. But Roman Polak is just a tough player. He's not a dirty player. He takes guys into the boards. Honestly, I found it completely offensive, okay. and Jack Edwards is above that. It should be better than that.
All right, so I got a quickie here. So today, the WWE debuts on Fox. Their SmackDown show debuts on Fox, right? And just to show you how Fox has these talking points for everything in life, whether it's politics, whether it's debuting a new show, they have to have something wrestling now on all their shows. Now I don't watch their shows, but I had Fox on for the football game last night, and because I was watching it late, turned off my TV. When I turned it on this morning, there's Fox host from Philly on a show, right? And they're trying to wrestle. And I can't tell you what a bad idea this is. Like, it is so easy to get hurt just screwing around doing that, trying to emulate wrestling moves, even if you're on TV because you think it's cool. It's not cool. It looks dumb. And I don't understand Fox's mentality in this, where they feel like, how about this? Just get somebody on who's a wrestler to talk about it. You don't need to show me wrestling on a morning show with like 40, 50, 60-year-old hosts trying to pull it off. It doesn't make sense. It's foolish, but it just shows you it's like this is how controlled their message is now.
Well, what are they going to have? Steve Ducey doing a pile driver on something?
No, I mean, but it might as well be. I mean, that's the morning show. I don't know the name of the host. He wasn't wrestling, but he's the oldest guy. He looks like he's at least 70, right? But even the women on the show have to be at least 40. One of them was wrestling and going to wrestle somebody. So they were practicing off camera and they kept showing them. And it's like, and she's in a dress. And it's like, what are you doing? It's just, you know what I mean? It's just like, you know, and the other one's making a muscle on camera. And it's like, what are you doing? It's like, I get if you're a morning show and you want to have fun, but that's just lunacy. Like that, you just look stupid. I mean, wrestling is stupid enough on its own. Let it work on its own merits.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Hey, good. Are
Hello,
we on?
Kevin.
Or?
We are live. We're just finishing up the pre-show and talking about Jack Edwards and the New York Post calling John Tavares a turncoat and wrestling. So we were a full pre-show.
Yeah, well, I just something that hasn't happened in the old days. You remember when your internet used to go down in your home, and you know that just doesn't happen anymore. But it's happened to me today. My internet is down, so I suddenly find that I don't normally do this show on my phone, but that's what I'm doing today.
Well,
so
it's looking good. It sounds fine.
Sounds great.
yeah,
You're good.
all right.
You're good.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I just want to say one thing, Mike, that I think Islanders fans are forever allowed to call Tavares anything they want.
No, they're not.
That's like
No,
the
they're not.
official. Like when a guy who was your captain leaves your team, I know it's business, I know all this stuff, but they're forever going to be able to say that.
If you want to empty your stomach of bile and express your vitriol, express it at the ownership and Garth Snow.
No, but it won't be that way. It wouldn't be a way if Matthews went and signed with the
Let's
Islanders.
get Kevin's opinion. Let's say this isn't the New York Post, but Mike's point was they laid this headline on top of an AP story.
No.
And just from a journalistic standpoint, it smells.
Yeah, the headline
What
was
do you think about that?
Kevin, the headline was in the New York Post the day that the day after Tavares was named captain, Islanders turncoat John Tavares named captain of Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I mean that's
Well,
not really
I mean, yeah, that's tabloid headlines. You know, I mean, that's just
big
the way
time.
it goes. You know, I'm sympathetic to the New York fan base on that. The fact that but I do think, you know, for a guy like Tavares who had lived his life and performed the way he did, I don't think he's deserving of that level of attack. I just think there's the Islander fan base has more, you know, class than that. And, you know, I mean, you know, he made an economic decision and he went home and, you know, I mean, they're allowed to be upset. I mean, that's, you know, but, you know, I don't know why they're acting that way.
That's a weird thing for a writer to write, though. I do agree with you. That's like
Well, it wasn't the writer; it was whoever the editor was, or
whoever the editor was who put the headline together. I guess.
I'm sure AP is not happy.
No, they can't be because that misrepresents the article.
Right.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
No, that's exactly it.
Well, I mean,
right.
and you know, it goes to what you know, we at least in my position is I hate is when, you know, readers see us as only trying to get clicks.
Right.
And that is certainly part of our strategy these days because it's part of our survival. But, you know, that's not, you know, generally the only reason we write stories. So sometimes you write stories you know are not going to be well read because you got to make people eat their vegetables. You know,
it's a real balancing act, you know. Like we've talked about this many times with Kevin over the years. You know, like I could write a quick rumor, you know, that'll get way more traffic than a story I spend, you know, a couple days researching. So it's just like,
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
people's tastes have changed through the years, and the length of a story matters, and it's a much more complicated formula than it was. I just did. I went back. I wrote about this on my Facebook, but 45 years ago, in 1974, I wrote the first story I was ever paid for. I was on the campus of Eastern Michigan University. I had just taken a job with the college newspaper, which you got paid for. It was a modest amount, but you got paid. And I interviewed George Mans, who was the Eastern Michigan football coach. 45 years later, I went back there this week and interviewed Chris Crichton for USA Today to do a story about how he had sort of turned this around. So the more things changed, the more they're the same. So it was just kind of an odd situation. But if you look at the way journalism is now compared to was when I started, it's also night and day. I mean, I started on a typewriter. The approach was different. The readership was different. Everything was different. Nobody was telling me to keep stories under 500 words. All that kind of
Everybody you read was telling you what their opinion was of your article.
No, you had no idea. For about the first 30, probably first 30 years of my 45-year career, I thought everybody loved me.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden you find out they don't all love you. So
just because they hate what you write doesn't mean they don't love you. They're there, right?
Oh yeah, no, I know, but
they're there.
It's funny. But they hate me at certain times. Like every year now I have to do my point projections, and I know that's the worst. That's the day when they hate me the most. So all right.
I always think my Facebook page just popped up. Like a reminder, like of what you were doing one of these days. And it popped up when I was up in Toronto with you for the World Cup of Hockey a couple days ago, like mid or late September, a couple weeks ago, I guess now.
4 years ago.
I know it feels like, but it pops up. This is your memory. This shows pictures of Toronto World Cup of Hockey, and I always think of you agonizing over that point thing on that trip. Like that was when you were. Oh yeah. You were just like oh man, how many points are we going to give this? It's just like it's a no-win situation.
First of all, it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
To project points, and then when you're done that fan bases will get really worked up about it. And when we started doing it, there weren't. Now more and more people are doing it, so it's not as bad. But when we first started doing it, I was kind of the only one out there getting reamed. And I'd get I remember the first year I did it, like I didn't rank the Buffalo Sabres very highly, and Buffalo radio stations called me, and I had to go on and sort of defend it, that kind of thing. So
it's so funny.
I went to the Lions game. It was just a great game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I made a mental note. I wanted to mention it. I was walking out of the game, and it was, of course, as everyone knows, it was a real tight game, but the Lions lost. And as I was walking out, there were two buddies kind of walking toward the parking lot. They were in front of me, and it reminded me of Russ and Mike, because the one guy on the left was saying, "Same old Lions, I've just seen them so often." I thought, there's Mike. And the guy on the right had it all figured out. He had all the answers, and he was so sure of and confident about his analysis of the game. And I said, "There's Russ. It's Mike Russ walking in front of me." And I laughed aloud. I really did. I laughed aloud. People around me must have thought, that I was crazy. But I really thought, it's my buddies Mike and Russ.
There you have it. There you have it. Awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. All right, let's get started here. I'm going to do the intro and we'll get going because we got to.
Kev, if you can, try to turn up your volume because you're a little quieter. But if you can,
actually it's more very directional. So if you're talking straight ahead, you're loud. If you're not, when you move your finger this way, as long as you're talking straight towards the phone, you're good. That's the same thing.
That's better.
All right, let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Friday, October 4th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello, and I do know everything.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen, USA Today.
And I am Eklund. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I think is going to happen in the Western Conference today, really quickly. And we're going to get into some Western Conference things, and we're going to also get into some. But we need to first talk about the game last night. But even maybe before that, we should touch base on the Brayden Schenn signing, which just happened.
Yes.
And Russ has been saying this all along that we're going to do this. You were convinced that Brayden Schenn was going to come back. I kind of, but so I mean, he was enormous from last year. Like he was as good as you can get, right? And I think actually, I think the signing number is pretty darn good, to be honest. I mean, I don't have any problem with it. It's $57 million for 8 years, right? So
52, 6.5 per.
I think that's a deal. I'm sorry. I mean, he's your first line center, second line center.
I'm with you on that. I thought, he's your first line center. And you're paying $6.5 million. A lot of first line centers are going for $10 million. Now he's not, he is not maybe up with the most talented centers in the game, but he is certainly very productive. And I think that's a very good deal. He gets the security.
Yeah.
Like if you get that amount of money, you're not really worried about anything for the rest of your life. I mean, you can quibble about whether or not, he left money on the table, but he's set for life. And from the Blues perspective, that's a reasonable amount of money for a number one center and for a guy who's pretty valuable to a team that just won the Stanley Cup.
Go ahead, Russ.
Well, I mean, we'll start with the Stanley Cup. Was he important for him? Sure. Was he a big point producer? No. He had 12 points in 26 games, which is the best playoffs he's ever had. So we start there. He's 28 years old. I see the same problem with the contract that I saw with David Backes. Brayden Schenn is not fast. He's not even the goal scorer David Backes was, honestly. I mean, he's a little on the decline that way. He had, 26, 25, 28, and if we start breaking him down, the year he had 25, he had 17 power play. The year he had 28, he had 8 on the power play. Like last year, he had 17, only 4 in the power play. Like they are paying him because he won the cup and he's a good guy and he could play the position, but they are not paying him for much future success because 3 years out, I'm going to start to worry about this contract.
Well, first of all, this is a 6-year deal masquerading as an 8-year deal.
Sure.
If you look at it, the 7 and 8 are 4.3 and $4 million. So they stretched it out so they could get the cap hit at a reasonable 6.5. I don't have a problem with it. Because I think it's a 6-year deal, then that makes a little more sense. He's never been a blazing skater, so that you accept his idiosyncrasies and you hope that his positives continue on for those 6 years. Where I'm a little concerned, Kev, from the St. Louis point of view, the last 2 moves that they made, the trade for Justin Falk, signing him to the extension, and now signing Schenn, who was the other big UFA next summer. If I'm the camp of Alex Pietrangelo and I wanted to stay in St. Louis, I'm not encouraged, because if he's asking for Subban, Erik Karlsson, Drew Doughty money, he's not getting it, because they just signed 2 guys at a fairly substantial cap hit, and I don't think they'll be able to afford paying Pietrangelo that amount. Now, if he's willing to take a hometown discount to stay in St. Louis, I think that, okay, then there you go. But if he wants to make big money, I think he's going to have to go make it elsewhere.
Did you really think they were going to give him $10 million?
No.
Those two? That's what I would say. I don't know that it changes where they're going to be at with him. So if he was thinking he was going to get $10 million even before the Falk thing, I don't think he would have. Not with the Blues. I just don't see that. So
I don't know if it's a guarantee he's gone yet, Kev. I think maybe they're going to work it with him. Like, go ahead and see what you can get. Go see what offers you get out there, because while he is a really good player, he's not a major offensive player. And so I think he's going to get less than he's expecting out on the open market.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm not sure that he was the $10 million, so I'm not sure those signings, will impact him. Just in terms of, I think there's room there to, fit him in. But, they're going to run into the same problem that, Tampa Bay runs in, Toronto went through. You're just going to have to sort of sort it out about what your priorities is. But I think that your point is well taken, is, especially the Johnny come lately and Falk, kind of eating up money that you would think they would want to make sure they're going to take care of their guys that have been there a while that they count on. Pietrangelo, even though he's not a unbelievably productive offensive defenseman.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
I mean, he is good. He's valuable, but he may be more valuable to them than other teams. And I think if he goes out on the market, I think he's going to get less than what he's expecting.
Yeah, we lost you, Kev. You can call back.
Yeah,
and maybe log off and on, call back in.
I can boot him so he can.
Yeah, do that. Get him out of here.
I just think though that this Brayden Schenn thing, like, again, nobody looks at the David Backes deal now. I
don't think it's comparable.
Oh, it's comparable. I
think Backes was way more. I think Backes was way older and had many more miles on him than Schenn.
But he's actually was a better goal scorer. He at least he's the same
and a leader. He was
same, but he's a leader, yeah, for sure. But he was he had many more miles. I mean,
he was 31, I think, when he signed.
What's right now, 28?
Yeah, he's 28, but he's already started out slow.
So there's 3 years of that. I think that's
6 years. This is 6 years, so
he's 3 years until he even gets to where Backes was when he signed that contract.
But I think 3 years is all I would sign him to because I think it's diminishing returns even today. But I think 3-4 years down the road is where you're running into big trouble.
And consider this: the fact is that you've got a young guy like Robert Thomas who probably ends up being their number 2 center behind O'Reilly in the next year or so. So more than likely, Schenn's moving back to the wing. If he, I know he's played some center last year, but more than likely he's going to move to the wall. Mm-hmm. And then you're talking about paying $6.5 million for a winger, and then you're talking about the higher echelon of wingers and not a good bargain at center.
Yeah. I mean,
I just don't like the deal. I like the guy. I like the player. I think he's a great guy. I just think this is a little too high for 17 to 20 goals a year and a good guy in the room and maybe a little bit of physical play. Also, you got to think about how he scores. I mean, David Backes ran into the same problem.
Yeah.
These guys don't score from like the circles. They score from in closer. And Schenn was scoring for a long time in the middle on the power play. I mean, you can't do that forever in this league.
That's true. I don't know though. I think that when you consider where the Flyers, remember when the Flyers signed Brayden Schenn, they were really worried about what they're going to have to pay him in this contract. That's why they signed him. They really thought that this contract was going to be, and I think the Flyers would have taken this contract. I really do.
Back then, yes. Now, no.
Yeah. I mean, they thought it was going to be way more than 6.5. Right, so they did think that was their fear, and because they were getting that impression for whatever reason, they were definitely getting that impression. So
but while we're waiting for Kevin to come back, do you want to go through your picks?
Yeah, let's go through I'm going to go through my. I'm going to start with the Pacific, okay? Because I've got some interesting things in this division. So, and I'm just going to go through them relatively quickly. Okay. The whole thing of it, then you guys can tell me where I'm wrong because I know you will.
Well, I'll just tell you what we picked after you pick yours.
Okay, yeah. So. Number 8, I have the LA Kings. I think that's probably what everybody had, right?
Two of the 3 of us had the LA Kings.
Yeah, the Kings are.
I did not have the Kings there, Eric.
Okay, who'd you have there?
Arizona, right?
Arizona. Okay, interesting. I had 7. I had Anaheim. So yeah. Of course, I made these picks. Remember before any of these games were played, and just to be totally honest,
Peter and I had Anaheim. Russ had LA 7.
Okay, number 6, I had San Jose. And this was before, and I know that everybody thinks I'm crazy for this pick because
you're crazy. Yes.
Everybody thinks San Jose is great. I made this pick before the opener. Okay, this is before the whole game. I think there's something inherently wrong with the San Jose Sharks, and I feel like watching them against Vegas, where they had like 15 shots or whatever.
But they didn't have Kane and Carlson,
right?
But that's okay. But then again, you have to be able to play without Kane and Carlson because the Sharks will play without Kane and Carlson. Both will miss time. Both will absolutely. Those aren't guys that are. Carlson's not playing 80 games. Let's just face it. Like Carlson's playing 60 games. Kane's going to play 60 games. You gotta be able to play without them. And yeah. And I was really when I watched the game, man. I don't know. I really thought that their defense looked terrible. Like beyond not having Carlson, just defensively, they look terrible. And I'm not a big fan of their goalie and Sharks. Jones. I think that this team is in
goaltending is going to be an issue. There's no question. You're right about that.
And the Pavelski, thing is huge. I mean, he was when all my Sharks fans who follow him every day were really upset about this, like about Pavelski leaving, because he's the guy, like he's the guy. So that's who I have at 6. So I have the interesting thing there is I have the first 3. I have my bottom 3 spots in this division are the California teams, which is kind of strange. It's just because they've always been usually pretty strong.
Peter and I had Arizona 6th. Russ had Anaheim 6th. Now 5th, we all had Edmonton.
Okay, I have Vancouver. I liked what I saw actually, and if I was to make this trade after the first, it was just one game, but I liked a lot of what I saw with Vancouver. I think their goaltending looked better than I was expecting it to. But it's just one game again. So Vancouver here, I'll always watch Vancouver at 5. At 4 is where I put Arizona. I'm actually high on Arizona, and I think that I know their first game wasn't impressive at all. But just when you consider how well they played last year with all the injuries that they played with, and then I thought picking up Kessel was an enormously good pickup for them.
Okay, but let's discuss one thing. So. And I don't know if before this show you had any edibles or not, so I'm just going to leave that alone.
I have never had an edible. Actually, no, that's not true. I have no edibles before this show. That's true.
All right, so
CBD.
The goaltending.
Nope.
The goaltending has been a revolving door for the last 3 or 4 years with nobody getting signed to more than a 2-year deal and them getting what they paid for. What makes you think, and especially with both guys being injured out of the gate here, what makes it any better this year?
Russ, their goaltending right now is Aiden Hill and Eric Comrie. Both
great. Remember I made this before the season started. I didn't think that was. I thought at least what's his name would be there.
No, he was hurt. Everybody was hurt before the season started.
Yeah, and I
missed that then. But I think that Rant. I knew Rant was hurt. I thought the other was.
Oh no, he was hurt too.
All 3 of us had Vancouver ahead of Edmonton 4th.
Okay.
And from what I'm gathering here, you have Edmonton in the top 3.
I do. It's very difficult. Very, very difficult for me to do because of all the heat I took last year, and I don't want to do it because I don't want to sit here and be
take more this year.
Edmonton, all the defender, all the freaking time. No, I think they're a lot better than they were last year.
Oh my god!
In that game itself, they were much better breakouts. They played much more sound defensively. They have lines that make sense.
So do you have
great? Calgary.
Well, just to update people. Adam Larson, who's on their top pairing, is out for 2 months, and they have nobody to replace him. They called up Evan Bouchard, and now they're rushing him when they were going to give him more time. And they're moving. Was it Ethan Bear up to the top pairing, or Chris Russell? Excuse me, Chris Russell. That'll bring a lot of quality to that Edmonton team. Jesus. Ooh. Anyway, go ahead.
3 I have Calgary.
One thing about Edmonton, just think about this. They sent back Cooper Marody, who had 64 points. 64 in the AHL, which is a lot of points. They sent back Kaylor Yamamoto. They kept Josh Archibald in there. That is the problem with Dave Tippett's lineup. Dave Tippett's going to try and keep the score down, and he'll do that. He'll get more wins this year. He'll keep the score down, but they won't score enough. That's the problem.
We'll talk about Edmonton when I get to them. Let's start with Calgary because I'll go into my exact reasoning. I already said most of the stuff I thought about Edmonton, but I will. Calgary is 3rd. This was a tough pick for me because I am not sold on Calgary completely. I do think that they way overachieved last year, but they still have so. I mean, Monahan and Gaudreau are just so good. It's hard to not put them there. Like those 2 guys are just, and their defense is so good. They may have they definitely have a top 5 defense in the NHL. I think Calgary's 3rd. I really do. And then so 2nd, I have Vegas.
Oh my God, you have Edmonton winning the division?
Yes. Now, and this, I'm going to get killed for this, and everyone's going to say I'm an idiot, but I'm sorry. And it's hard because believe me, Vegas and Edmonton are a toss up in my opinion, but they are But if I'm going this far, I got to go all in. I thought if I'm going this far at Edmonton, I got to.
No, you don't.
When I see them as very similar teams, and I see them as comparable.
Yeah, you're doing the Thelma and Louise of picking here. It's fine.
Well, no, when you get, if I'm going to put Edmonton at 2, I mean, and I'm on the fence with Vegas and Edmonton. I just said, oh, whatever, I'll go with Edmonton at 1. I mean, honestly, it's I could flip a coin. I mean, Vegas looks damn good, but I'm not convinced that they're. I mean, there is so much depending on Marc-Andre Fleury. There is so much depending on their defense. I mean, they played their first game against a bad Sharks team. Again, I made these picks before the first game, but they played the first game against a bad Sharks team. We kind of happened like we thought it would happen. But actually, they gave up more chances to the Sharks than they should have, even though they gave up only like 15 shots. And I think that's going to be a typical thing with Vegas because they do give up big shots when they give up shots.
Yeah,
because of the way they play.
So something that did happen after that first game. So Nate Schmidt's down. He's weak.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And that's horrible for them. So now Jimmy Schultz has already played, and I don't care that he got a point per game. He has never played. That's his first pro game. He's not even played in the AHL. He's a good college defenseman. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's at the level of Adam Fox. I think he could be like a competent 6,
right.
But I don't know if he could do it for a whole season. So now he's probably pressed into more action than they probably planned on. And now Nick Hague will make his debut. And, again, really good AHL year last year. Yeah. I don't know if he's quite ready. He could be. But, again, not a superstar defenseman. I didn't like them to start the year because I didn't feel like they had enough depth on defense with losing Brandstrom and stuff, and they really don't.
Russ, Peter, and I all had Vegas, Calgary, San Jose 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Okay, yep.
So the
I had Calgary. I didn't have Vegas winning.
Oh, you had Calgary, Vegas?
Calgary. I did not have Vegas.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I wrote it down wrong. Well, let's just say this: the ongoing battle all year will be us tracking the Sharks and tracking the Oilers. It'll be a daily thing.
And this sucks for me because I'm a Sharks fan. Okay, like they're one of my teams. And I don't want to see them. But I feel like there's something inherently wrong. And as far as Edmonton goes, I feel like there's something inherently right because I know Yamamoto is sent back, but it's this time he's being sent back by Ken Holland and Tippett. And Holland has been very, very good over the years at letting players develop as long as they have to. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to trust Holland on that a little bit. In Detroit always would,
I don't think this has to do with Ken Holland, no. I think this has to do with the mismanagement from within this organization before Holland got there and up until now. And this is a problem because now you also have a coach that, name me the young players that Dave Tippett's ever moved along. He's not known for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it has anything to do with letting him over marinate more than Dave Tippett's a first-year coach who's trying to make the playoffs. And again, they shouldn't be a team that's trying to make the playoffs.
I totally disagree with that because that just based on the talent alone.
Look, if
they have two of the top 5 players in the NHL. Okay.
Yeah, and they have nothing else after that. That's the problem.
Yeah, but now they have something after that. They do. Nugent Hopkins is a solid player after that.
Okay. Do I like Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, McDavid, Clefbaum, Nurse?
Yeah.
Yes, there's 5 players. The rest are substandard for what they should be in terms of their roles. They really are.
I think James Neal was a really solid pickup for them.
Yeah,
he made 2 good plays, and that was about it for James Neal that game. As the game rolled on, he became less and less effective, I felt.
Is he better than Milan Lucic? Yes. Sure. Is he a good NHL forward anymore? That's up for debate. I don't know if he is.
And Cashin, who we sit back, and say, okay, he's been all over the place, obviously. But he looked great on that line.
He's a loose cannon and waiting to explode.
No, but Cassian's right.
He's got talent.
Cassian's got talent. Look, I thought Darnell Nurse looked good. They have some good players, but I think when they went in there, Ken Holland should have said, hey, you know what? We're going to rebuild. If we could make the playoffs, fantastic. But I'm not guaranteeing the playoffs. And he should never – right now they're catering to the fans by playing a very veteran team. Yeah. And if they fall short, they're hurting the development of other players who could at least be getting NHL time that maybe have sat in Bakersfield too long.
Well, let's get to the Central because
we'll go. Yeah, we'll go. I mean, we'll go to the Pacific. Oh, that is Pacific. Sorry, we'll go to the Central. This division is just ridiculous. Like this, I could have. It depended. Would have depended on the mood when I made these picks. I think because like it's all over the place. This is like.
Well, okay. Why don't we do this? I'll tell you what the three of us chose.
Okay.
From 6 and 7. All three of us had Minnesota, Chicago. Let's see.
I'm 3.
I had Minnesota 7th, Chicago 6th. Peter and Russ had Minnesota 6th, Chicago 7th.
Okay. All right. I have Minnesota 7. Definitely. And I think that that's the only one you can really be safe about.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that they're on the right track and putting them at 7th, I think they're going to be good. And if they were in the Pacific Division, they might be a playoff team. So it's like a very tricky spot.
Sure.
But they're finishing 7th. I'd like where Guerin's going to go with it. They could finish as high as 3rd. I think they have anything could happen with them. They really are, they now number 6 is where I put the Winnipeg Jets. And,
Wow.
this is again, this is just a matter of looking at, I am not a Hellebuyck fan. Like I'm not, I thought he had a great year 2 years ago. Obviously last year he was subpar. In this division, I basically said it's going to come down to the goalies. Like I think this division is a goalie division. It's because these teams are all so close. And beyond Hellebuyck, I don't like who they have, and I don't like their backup too much. So you have to have 2 good goalies, in my opinion, to go anywhere in this division because you can't give up any points. Like if your backup plays, you got to be there.
Yeah, I think the one failing that we saw yesterday is their defense is mortally wounded.
Yeah,
and the Rangers, who just got done with the rebuild, basically have the same defense now that Winnipeg has, and Winnipeg was rock solid 2 years ago. So they're trading goals last night. That's a bad sign for Winnipeg. For the Rangers, you can live with it because they added a lot of scoring.
Yeah.
That's something where with Winnipeg, it's like not good for their division.
All right.
It does feel as if there's trouble. Go ahead. Who do you guys have it?
So 4 and 5, we all had the same 2 teams.
Okay.
Winnipeg and Nashville. I had Winnipeg 4, Nashville 5. Russ had let's see. Russ and Peter had Nashville 4, Winnipeg 5.
Okay. Well, I have Nashville 5. Again, when picking I picked my teams, all my favorite teams I picked not to make the playoffs this year. It's just the first time it's ever happened. Nashville, San Jose, and the Flyers are the 3, and Montreal actually. It's the 4 teams I follow the most. So Montreal I had in the playoffs. But Nashville, I'm worried about whether Laviolette's time has run out. I am worried about that. I am worried about Rene, even though I like Saros a lot. But Saros is small and can't play that many games. It does affect him. And what I've said before about Nashville is they have a bunch of players who are streaky scorers, and it's going to depend on if they can not all go. If they all go cold at the same time, this team will be awful. But if they manage to not all go cold at the same time, they could be trouble. They could win the Stanley Cup. I mean, I put that as their best case scenario. That's how weird I think this team is. But I'm picking them in 5 for now, which I guess will be a playoff spot because there will be 3 teams. There will be 5 teams from this division, I think. Number 4 is where I put Dallas. And I really love the Pavelski edition, obviously. But that's not all. I really like a lot of stuff that Dallas has done. And I think their defense is still a little bit suspect, but I think Bishop is one of the best in the world. So I think that they've got a great goaltender there. And as long as Bishop stays healthy, they're okay. That's the whole.
Russ and I and Peter all had the same 3 in the same order.
Okay.
St. Louis 3, Dallas 2, Colorado 1.
Okay. So you guys are all high on Dallas. I could be high on Dallas. They might be that good, but I don't.
Well, you have them in the playoffs, so I'm
in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, these teams could be 1 or 2 points apart from each other, like we talked about before. 3 is where I put the St. Louis Blues. I do see the Blues as being. I think that's solid. I think Billington, full year confidence. I like, and then seeing what you saw, even against the Capitals, even though they didn't win the game, I thought that they still.
Good effort by them.
Yeah, they had the mojo still. Like the mojo continued.
Yeah,
I think that I'd love to know how many teams that have carried the Stanley Cup around before their opening game have won, because it feels like they've all lost.
Nobody that I can remember have carried their Stanley Cup around the way they did, and I did.
The Capitals were the first. Capitals did it too, and the Bruins did it before that. The Bruins did it
on game 1. Yeah, I didn't remember them doing it. I don't like it.
If I remember right when they did it.
I don't like it, and I think it takes too long. I don't like it at all.
They didn't win the Stanley Cup this year, so that's like, to me, that's that you don't get to carry the Stanley Cup.
I agree.
Two, I put Colorado. Really hard not to be like all in on the Avalanche. I mean, last night remember I made this before the games, but last night, I mean, what do you? I mean, this team is nuts. This team. I mean, just Rantanen looks like he is the best of these RFAs, and I believe that he was the whole time.
I don't know if that was even arguable.
Yeah, well,
I guess you can argue Marner, and that's fine, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Point, Marner, and Rantanen are all great RFAs, but they're all different too. They're all different.
They are all different.
Yeah, but Rantanen, as far as just flat out scoring, oh man, how much he just the McKinnon Rantanen thing is so close to like a Gretzky Curry type thing right now. It's really fun to watch. I think that's the closest I can remember. And they'll be, of course. The only thing I would say about them is their goaltending, and I don't. Again, like I'm saying, this division is about goaltending. I'd put them at 1 if they were stronger goaltending, but I don't think they are.
Goaltending. I'm guessing that if there's a problem, they have so much cap space, they will get a goalie. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, we speculated about yesterday, and the name I don't know if it was Russ or Peter that came up with it, but Craig Anderson going back to Colorado makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
As a 1 year guy who's been there before, he's still a good goaltender at 38 years old. They can fit him under the cap. Makes a ton of sense. I think Colorado's winning the division, but from process of elimination here, number 1 team is
the Chicago Blackhawks, and again, this is one of my least favorite teams. I mean, it's just funny, but I'm telling you, I mean, just as far as I've never liked the Blackhawks going back my whole life for whatever reason. I just never liked them. But here, I think they're back. I think they're back in a huge way. I don't think they're just back slightly back. I love this team. I love everything about them. I can watch them all the time. I mean, Kane and Taves are coming off their best seasons, right? Like they had huge years last year.
Well, a bounce back for Taves, not his best.
But I think most goals he's ever scored, I think.
Right, but still, I mean, he's not as dominant as he was 5 or 6 years ago, but he was better last year than he was the year before, definitely.
And so the Blackhawk teams always won the Stanley Cup. They never had an Alex DeBrincat on them. Like, they never had another guy who could score 50 goals. I mean, DeBrincat could score 50 goals. I mean, that's insane. To me, that's, I like Perlini. I like the bringing back of Andrew Shaw. I think that's a huge thing for them. I love that. That was just made tons of sense because that was such. And I think Dylan Strome is like becoming a star. Not a superstar, but becoming a star finally, which we all kind of thought he would. But
how deep do you think their defense is? Let me ask you. How deep do you think it is?
I think picking up Oli Mata and Connor Murphy were great pickups.
Oli Mata can't play defense. He can't.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're great defensively, obviously.
Dahan is hurt.
Dahan's hurt. Okay, Dahan, they need him to get. But I like Eric Gustafson. I like Seabrook. I like Keith. I mean, Seabrook and Keith. They're older. I get that. They're not what they were, but they're still very. They're still very smart. They're smart.
I'll give you this. I expect them to beat the Flyers today, so I'll give you that. At least you can feel good about that today.
but I think their defense isn't their Stanley Cup defense they had. If they did, they would be better than those Stanley Cup teams because their offense is better. Their offense is better than the teams that won the Stanley Cup.
Leonard's hurt too, right?
Yeah, so I was going to say, it's funny because what you're going to get now is the Robin Leonard who couldn't stay in the lineup consistently in Buffalo. Now he stays in the lineup for a year in Chicago, in New York, and now he goes to Chicago and he starts the year on the injured list. And Corey Crawford, they have to have a split of 40-40 for them to have a chance because Crawford can't stay healthy either. And if Leonard's out for an extended period and they have to play Crawford a lot of games,
of course. I mean, any major injury changes everything about
they said it's not serious. That's what they said.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't serious. And I think Leonard, has gotten his act together. I think having Leonard and Crawford, is probably the best duo if they are both healthy, probably the best duo in this division as far as two goalies go. So you got the two. So you have your two goalies. Crawford is a great goalie when he's healthy. Like the Blackhawks win when Crawford's healthy. The Blackhawks don't make the playoffs because Crawford hasn't been healthy, and they lose when he's not there. So if he's not there and Leonard can step in, a Vezina Trophy winner, I don't see anything that holds the Blackhawks back. Like I think
I see a lot.
I mean, you're talking about Taves and Kane here, and you guys are putting him in 7th place. Taves, Kane, DeBrincat,
8th place.
8th place. Taves, Kane, DeBrincat. I mean, that's like
they can score goals. They can't prevent them.
Right. I mean, the problem is they're arguably their best defenseman last year was Gustafsson, who scored, I think, 60 points.
Yeah.
You want to go back to Stratomatic days? He might be a 0 defensively. He's a terrible.
All right. So here's an interesting thing. So, Leonard could play, but now they're starting Corey Crawford today.
Yeah. Well, I think that's smart. You got 2 goalies. You got 2.
We just went through. They picked up Leonard because it's like, and now it's the same old thing with Corey Crawford starting. Not that he's bad, but he's going to get injured. He is.
People are threatening to turn this off in our chat room.
I don't care. Turn it off.
No, because of me, not you.
Oh, okay. Then keep it on.
No, it's all because of me. I'm telling you, man. It's like, I don't know. The Blackhawks are just I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. Like every once in a while,
Pat Foley would even tell you they're not coming in first place. I feel like
every once in a while you just feel a team in your bones. I look at this team. They're just going to do it.
If I had to rank X picks on levels of ridiculousness, right. I think that Chicago is less ridiculous than Edmonton making the playoffs. Do I think Chicago's finishing in first? No. But I think it's less ridiculous than Edmonton because Edmonton is a pathetic organization.
I don't know, man. I think we should let the Joker in character pick these.
Oh, man. Wow. I mean, it's like, and you guys laughed at me when I put the Islanders ahead of the Rangers last year.
I praised you when you got it right, Eck. But you're talking now about the Blackhawks with minor adjustments having this great resurgence when they're mostly old still, and they have some good young players. Some. They have no defense, None.
But we'll see.
They've got.
That's why the season.
They've got 6 defensemen. I mean, they have like 6.
They've
got 6 NHL defensemen. Like they have. If Mata's healthy, they've got 6 NHL defensemen.
Okay, fine.
And they're not great, but Calvin DeHaan is pretty good.
Yeah,
Connor Murphy's pretty good.
He's hurt. Isn't DeHaan still?
Yeah, I'm not saying, but this is still early in the year. I mean, they'll be back. I don't think it's anything. He's missing like 2 months or anything.
Let's just say this.
My lock of the day is Blackhawks over Flyers. There you go.
They
have today too. Unfortunately,
they have 6 NHL defensemen. Are they 6 good NHL defensemen? We'll see. But let's move on. We have over-unders to pick.
Yes.
All right. But I'm just so remember the three teams you have to watch for this year that no one agrees with me on are these 3.
We can't forget. Trust me.
Chicago and Columbus. Those are the 3 teams I think you have to look out for.
Does anybody want to touch on anything in any of the games last night?
I will tell you this. So
the Rangers game was a lot of fun to watch.
The Ranger game was fun. Was Lundqvist perfect? No. But the Rangers look like the Leafs of a couple years ago where their defense is puck moving, but doesn't stop a lot. They're not going to block. They should probably block a few more shots, but they're not going to do that. But they will keep pouring at you waves of offense. And even guys like Kapelkako was getting great chances. They're going to be able to do that at will against most teams. And so that's what's going to make them dangerous. If they get good goaltending, like you saw, Lundqvist had to make some insane saves. Yeah. And I think Georgiev is also capable of doing that.
Right.
That's what I think makes them a possible playoff team, simply because their offense is good. And I think everybody now sees what Panarin could look like when he has players around him.
Now, it was a smorgasbord of sports last night because it was baseball going on, football, although I didn't care about the football game, and all the hockey games.
None of those sports matter at this point.
Yeah, I know. I was watching the Sabres Penguins just to get a good indication of what the Sabres, because
that was interesting.
And I'll tell you something. I thought the Sabres played a lot better than they did at most points last year in their first game under Kruger. There was a lot of effort from all 4 lines. Hutton played well. Now that's the thing. Can Hutton play like that for 55 to 60 games? I don't think so. Do they maintain that kind of effort throughout 60 minutes? I don't know. I'm skeptical, but it was a good first step, and they had a good outing, and they beat Pittsburgh, who I have to tell you, Pittsburgh looked old and slow last night.
I'm starting to wonder about Sullivan, honestly. Like, and it's
a fair wonder.
After one game, it sounds ridiculous, but
no, I think
he's underachieved for a couple of years now.
I think that's a fair assessment. I also think that Malkin does look like he's going to have a career year. Like I told you guys, he looked great.
Yeah, he did.
But the team needs some adjusting. There's no question. And if they fall off the cliff, I'll look stupid. But we all say that it's game one. I'll give him a chance. But Sullivan's job, he did just get extended, so he's probably safe this year. But I think it's fair if you question him. I do.
Yeah, historically, you also don't want to play teams that missed the playoffs last year on opening night.
Right.
Like opening, anytime anybody missed the playoffs last year on opening night is a real tough battle.
And I have to say the goal that Rasmus Dahlin scored. Oh my God! I mean,
he's like the most underrated like first overall pick in forever, right? Like I mean, this guy.
Not by me, not by Russ.
But I think by a lot of people. Like I mean, we talk about him here, sure, but he is, he's crazy good.
No. We praise the hell out of him. But I'm going to rip the fellow Philly media because we're all in a bunch of us are in a Roto league, and I ended up getting Dahlin as like my second or third defenseman. And
Thanks for inviting me into this league. I appreciate that.
I did not run the league.
I wanted to do it. I just couldn't do it.
But I'm just saying the fact that I was able to get him. I got Brett Burns with my first pick, and I got Dahlin second or third. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. No, that's a really good. I mean,
it's going to be an all-timer. There's no doubt.
Now, okay, so I sent out a list to everybody for the over-unders,
right?
With the points. That it was from a Vegas website, so we're just using that as common ground here. Right. I'm sure there were other ones that were off by a point or two, but we'll just use that. I have Peter's picks, but why don't we just go do our first ones? Go around the screen here, and let me start. And I'm going where I always go, and based on my commentary on X picks of the Pacific, this is understandable. I have the Edmonton Oilers under 85.5. I think they're probably going to end up around high 70s, low 80s, and if McDavid or Draisaitl get hurt, then they'll probably lock it into place. I don't like their goaltending. They started their 38-year-old backup in the first game of the season instead of the goalie they'd paid $4.5 million for, and I just don't think they have the depth up front. They'll be better defensively with Tippett as the coach, but I don't think that they're going to even be close to the playoffs. So that's mine. Russ, what's yours?
All right. So the first one I had was Anaheim Ducks over 79.5. I think with John Gibson in net, you can't put them at 79.5. I think adding Steele, Comtois, and Max Jones at least make them competitive. So I think 79.5 is just way too low. Okay,
Peter had the Flyers over 90.5.
Woof.
So
where'd you send this to, Mike? I'm trying
to your hockey.
I got it.
To your HockeyBuzz address.
I got it.
So, do you have one?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so I'm just looking at it now, but I'm definitely going to I'm going to obviously go over on Edmonton. I think
that's your one. So you and I are going head to head on that one.
I'll take that every day.
So you're going over. Okay, so I'll give you my second one. And Peter also chose this one, so I'll mention that one too. I have the Colorado Avalanche over 98.5. Russ, what do you have? And I'm tracking this, so we'll at the end of the year.
I have the Avs over also.
Okay. Ak?
I'm gonna go with the Canadians over 88.5.
Okay.
I mean, they did that last year, so I don't think that's outrageous.
No, That's not. Okay. Let's see. Peter has Dallas over 96.5. I have the Carolina Hurricanes under 95.5. I think that is clearly the best bet of this entire list. I think they're going to finish in the 80s with their bad goaltending. I don't see any way they get to 90 points.
I think that's fair. I'm going with the Florida Panthers under 96.5 because, and look, it's not because of the game against Tampa.
Right.
It's because of the game against Tampa because they have no defense. And that's Bob can only do so much. Columbus had a way better defense than what Florida has constructed here. And just having Q there in a defensive system doesn't matter. He doesn't have the horses.
Okay. Ak?
I'm going to go Sharks under 93.5.
Okay. Let's see. We already got Peter's Dallas pick. We got his Anaheim pick, his Colorado pick and his Flyers pick. He's got the Nashville Predators under 97.5.
Good one.
Okay. I have the New York Islanders under 93.5. I would have been more confident had they re-signed Leonard. I don't know whether they have the scoring, and I don't think they have as much of the goaltending as they did last year. So I think they're going to finish significantly under what they did last year. Okay, Russ, your fourth?
Yeah. My fourth is the Rangers with over hold on, I lost my list. The Rangers over 87.5. I think they have the best tandem in the Metro, and they have plenty of offense.
That's a pretty low number. That's a good
low number.
We're not allowed to pick the same ones, right? So
no, you
want.
I mean, that was my next one, but I'm not going to. I think we should pick different ones.
No, pick it. That's fine.
That's fine. We're keeping it on record.
Peter and I had both had Colorado, so go ahead.
That's true. I'm still gonna let Russ have the Rangers because I don't want to root for the Rangers to win. Okay. I don't want to root for this team to win either, but I'm going to go to the Devils over.
Okay,
and Peter had that one for his final pick too, so there you go. My final one, and I guess I'm doing this because I'm going to watch them all 82 games. I have the Maple Leafs over 101.5. I think they're going to finish second in the division, so I think they'll be closer to 108 to 110. So I think they'll get over that number, not easily, but fairly easily.
I think that's possible. I'm going to go Chicago Blackhawks under 90.5.
Okay, and Ak, your final one?
I'm going under with the Panthers at 96.5.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at that maybe at the halfway mark of the season.
Yeah.
Where we are so far. But yeah, I thought it's always fun to do.
Yeah. No, that is fun to do. I appreciate it. So tonight, I've got to run pretty quickly, guys. But tonight, I just wanted to say that the game for me to watch, obviously tonight, I think is Winnipeg, New Jersey. Just because you want to see Hughes' first game.
Yeah, and Winnipeg on the back-to-back could make them very susceptible.
This is a really bad spot for Winnipeg. I mean, again, you're coming into a team with Hughes playing his first game. A team that didn't make the playoffs last year, and you're playing a back-to-back. That's a really bad spot for the Jets, unfortunately, and that's putting them in a really bad spot for no questions asked.
We'll take if you have to go back. We'll take a couple questions in the chat and just.
I do, guys. So thank you very much.
See ya.
Enjoy the game.
I want to point out the last time Chicago had more than 90.5 points was 2016-17.
Yeah, I mean, I don't rule out the possibility. Remember, this is the division that a few years ago everybody had 90 points.
Right, but even if we
they're going to feast on the Pacific Division, those 5 non-playoff teams. So I think it's possible that even Minnesota gets in the high 80s or low 90s, and Chicago could be maybe 2 or 3 points out of a playoff spot. I think the defense is going to kill them, but I think that there's a possibility that they could sneak in on a wild card. I don't think they're going to be in the top 3. I mean, they had a great last third of the season. They were one of the best teams in the league in the last third of the season. Once they got going and they had that DeBrincat Strome second line taking the heat off of the Taves line, they had 2 offensive lines that were virtually unstoppable. So
I don't disagree with having the offense. Just this is a defensive league. End of the day, you have to have some defense, and they don't have much.
Okay, I'll take a couple questions here. Keep putting them in the chat here. Esmir says, "How well do you think Hughes will do in his debut tonight?" And by the way, they're starting back-to-back Friday. I don't know who they're playing tonight, but they play in Buffalo tomorrow night. So back-to-back games for the Devils. What is your outlook on what Hughes is going to do this year?
I think he's going to get right around 55, 60 points. He could get 70, 75 if he plays with Taylor Hall all year and gets top power play all year. But if that wavers a little, I think, I'll take it down 10, 15 points. But, I think he'll get a point in his first game. He might get a goal in the first 12, 13 seconds. Mm-hmm. He tries to get tricky at beginning of games, and teams have to be ready for that. And Winnipeg's coming off a back-to-back. You kind of wonder if they'll be ready for that. So there'll be a lot of jet fuel with him and I think all of their players coming out of the gate here because they want to really prove something. And Winnipeg's going to have to just prove that they can still play.
Okay. Scott C asks, who do you think the top 5 goalies are in the league? Well, okay. I mean, Vasilevsky and Price are definitely on the list.
2.
Let's see.
Gibson 3.
Gibson. Matt Murray's got to stay healthy to be in the top.
Yeah, I'm not going to put Matt Murray in that.
Dubnyk, Anderson.
I think Anderson's 4. I would put Freddie Anderson in there. 5th.
Yeah, I mean, then it sort of really gets tough. I mean,
It gets a little tougher. I'm mentally.
Yeah, Holtby's now hasn't been as good the last couple.
I'll put Holtby. I think Holtby.
Pecorine.
Yeah, I think Holtby bounces back.
Okay, so you have him in the top. You would put him in the top 5.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Goalie FP. He's not asking whether it's bombing out. Who do you think leads the league in goals this year? Well, I mean, it's always a good pick to take Ovechkin. I don't think he's going to drop off. If he can stay healthy, and I'm not being a homer here, but if he can stay healthy, I think Austin Matthews has a good shot. I mean, he has worked. If you believe a guy who is as skilled as he is needs to work with a skills coach. He worked with a skills coach this summer. He's always trying to improve his game. He's sort of got that Crosby thing to him where every year he tries to improve and add one more thing to his repertoire. His one-timer, he scored on his one-timer on the power play against Ottawa. And that's going to be a weapon on the power play. I think it's possible he could score 50 goals.
Yeah, I think Ovechkin's going to be right around 49, 50. I think Matthews will be right around 49, 50. I'm going to say Draisaitl will be a few over.
Draisaitl
is going to lead the league, just to make it clear.
Well, if he plays with McDavid, but obviously that doesn't
play a lot, Mike. I mean, I saw what Tippett was doing. He's going to play those guys to death.
Well, apparently what he's doing is he's doing the trick of playing them together after the TV timeout.
Right.
But he's putting on separate lines.
No, but that's still going to produce points. It's going.
Oh yeah, it will. It will. Okay, this is more of a Tampa-centric question. Thomas Smith asks, one of Carter Verhaeghe or it's not Gamal Smith, is it? I don't think they have. Will be sent to Syracuse after Point returns. Both must clear waivers. Which one sticks?
Which one sticks on waivers, or which one sticks with?
Which one sticks with Tampa? I mean, I see Carter Verhaeghe led the American Hockey League in scoring.
Yeah.
He's, I believe, like 25 or 26. He's sort of like the Greg McKegg type with Tampa. I mean, he's a former Leaf draft pick. He had a really great
because that's the kind of guy that Cooper likes.
Right. So I would say they would send Smith down.
And I'm a little worried about that cat picture. The cat does not look happy.
Just
the avatar there.
Yes, no, I knew what you were talking about.
Okay.
Goalie FPS, if McDavid gets hurt, does Draisaitl still score?
Yes.
Yeah.
Draisaitl scores on his own island. It doesn't matter.
Yes. All right. So any more questions? No, it does not appear so. Okay, so we'll be back on Monday with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. A very busy weekend, not only in the hockey world, but we have baseball playoffs and football games. So I'm sure we'll find some things to touch on Monday.
Right.
For Kevin Allen, who got a phone call and had to bail, unfortunately, but we'll have him back next week. For Kevin Allen, for Eklund, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.